Well, hello there, and welcome to the FOX6 Sports Blitz. I'm Brandon Cruz here in our studios. Tim Van Voren and Lily's out live with us at the Link in Philadelphia after the Packers lose 22-10 and end their season. Let's start with tonight's starting lineup. It's the Philly Follies. What could go wrong does go wrong for the Pack. Giannis Antetokounmpo is a slam dunk judge, making us say what, and our high school hotshot impresses us on the court.
The thing that hurt the most, I feel like, knowing that it's not going to be the same group of guys in this locker room, knowing that came in every day and gave it everything I had, so hurt.
Obviously, very disappointed Josh Jacobs, and it's understandable. He did lay it all on the line in this one, guys. But when you look at this overall, Tim, this seemed to be a microcosm of the season. Mistakes, turnovers, and an inconsistent offense.
I think you hit on all the points there, Brandon, and I would say from an emotional standpoint, last year you felt like the Packers thought they lost the game in San Francisco. They could have won that game. There have been other playoff setbacks in the past. The NFC Championship game in Seattle, we won that game, and they lost that game. Today, you didn't feel like they won this game. They didn't think the better team won. I think they were resigned to the fact they were not as good as the Philadelphia Eagles. They were not as good as these upper teams in the NFC this season, and that is what we saw on the field today. The Eagles weren't great, but they were appreciably better than Green Bay.
And they were a lot more physical, and we saw that on the opening kickoff, Lily. How big of a gut punch was it for Keyshawn Nixon to fumble and to lose it just seconds after the kickoff?
I think that was a massive gun punch. We can talk about whether he recovered the football or not, but on the field it was ruled a fumble, and that just was something the Packers did not anticipate. You have to believe the Packers, again, receiving the football. Matt LaFleur probably had a great opening 20 or so plays for this Packers offense to go out there and deliver against the Eagles and maybe catch them off guard, but they were caught off guard by that fumble. And now your defense is put into an adverse situation. Of course, they give up that touchdown to Jahan Dotson, and the rest is history. So the Packers certainly were not anticipating a fumble on the very first play of the game, and that really was just a story of how this game went. Nothing going right for the Packers, and that's why their season's over.
Well, and Tim, they just couldn't recover. I mean, right away, the Eagles turned that into points, and then moments later when they get the ball for the second series, they lose Elgton Jenkins on the first play. I mean, it just kind of was like a domino effect, fumble, injury, and here we go.
You're right. They couldn't. They're trying to put fingers in the dikes, and the leaks were just springing out all over the place. I do think the defense, aside from that 28-yard scoring drive, did hold a couple of times and gave the offense a chance to get back into the, but the offense couldn't do anything. As you said, the Elgton Jenkins injury was particularly dangerous or negative there in the first half. Packers shut out. I mean, what in the world is going on? They couldn't get anything going. They didn't have that many plays. I think that was part of it too. There weren't that many series back and forth, but they just couldn't do anything sustained on the offensive side of the ball.
No, and as you said, the defense held its own. I mean, the Packers were only down 10-0 at the half. It felt a lot bigger, but the scoreboard was only a 10-point difference. But with Jenkins out, Lily, the two guys that they put in to replace him just weren't up to the task. Both guys struggling with penalties and covering their men.
Yeah, and that's what set the Packers offense back, right? It felt like every time they kind of took a step forward, there was a holding penalty, and they're overcoming a 1st and 20. They did that twice on one drive, and that's just not a sustainable way to win a football game, because when you have all these penalties, you have inexperience, I should say, on the left side of the line. They're getting after, the Eagles are getting after Jordan Love, and that's exactly what they were able to do. So you throw in two linemen who have, again, 36 combined snaps coming into this game. It makes it hard to protect a quarterback with linebackers that are coming at you full speed and really talented Eagles defensive linemen as well. So obviously that was not in the game plan for Matt LaFleur to have to replace Elgton Jenkins that early in the game. But unfortunately, they didn't really have the next man up mentality or just the guy behind Elgton Jenkins that could be a stalwart behind him.
And normally Andre Dillard would be active.
Correct.
He was inactive. He's at least a veteran offensive lineman, Brandon, as you know, so you had to play these young guys. And it's just, as you said, Brandon, kind of a Murphy's Law kind of thing. It's like, well, put the weak fielder in right field. The line drive goes right to right field. The problems find the problem.
They did. And on top of that, Jordan Love would feel pressure here and there, and then he wasn't very accurate with his throws, Tim. He missed receivers behind them or high, and then he would throw just to the wrong team.
And he almost had an interception right out of the box there on a pass that was behind Dontavian Wicks. Could you imagine if after the kickoff fumble they had an interception deep in their own territory as well? It just was not a sharp day for Jordan Love. He has not had the sharp days since a couple of weeks ago, several weeks ago actually, and the Packers needed more from him. There's no other way to say that. Most teams are going to need something from their quarterback this time of year. You're playing good defenses and good teams.
And Lily, about Jordan Love with that, we've talked about this throughout this entire season, about how calm and cool he is, and you never know if he's won or lost, played good or bad with his demeanor. But did that translate on the field today? Because it didn't seem like he had the confidence that we are used to seeing with him, even if he isn't playing well.
Yeah, that was kind of a stark contrast from the performance that I think we anticipated to see from Jordan Love to what we did see on the field, right? He did let it rip, but that long pass play to Dontavian Wicks was, picked off by Darius Slay, and nice play by Slay. But you talk about just the game management portion of it. Obviously, he did not have Christian Watson, didn't have Romeo Doubs and Jaden Reed by the time the game was over. So he's losing his top 3 pass catchers in that sense, but he wasn't able really to do much else with it. And of course, the pressure in his face doesn't help, but it was a very one-dimensional offense. And he did make some good throws out there, but it wasn't the Jordan Love that would be a quarterback leading this team deep into the postseason. And that was discouraging for him and for the team.
And Lily, you touched on it. The loss of Romeo Doubs and Jaden Reed was huge, and that was later in the game. But Tim, when you lose your top 2 weapons after already not having Christian Watson, it was almost as if he had one hand tied behind his back trying to throw to guys that he doesn't have a whole lot of rapport with.
I absolutely agree with you, and I think even before those guys went out, you just weren't seeing separation from these wide receivers at all. So those are your top flight guys. Then if you're on backups, you're just going to have to really catch a flyer somewhere along the line. Way back when, I remember a game in Tampa, they had Jeff Thomason lining up at wide receiver because they're out of people. That was essentially what was going to happen here today. They were down to 3 at the end, and you're trying to play catch-up football in a desperate passing situation.
And we talk about the injuries there on offense. At the end of the game, you also lose Josh Myers. Now, the game is pretty much out of hand at this point, but it really was symbolic of how many guys were going down. And that one was a tough one to watch because he'd been playing hurt all season, and then he has to be carted off. How big of a blow is that to this group emotionally when you see a guy like that who'd given it all and then has to leave that way?
I think it was a big emotional blow, not only because he's very beloved in the locker room, but because he was coming up on a year where he was going to get paid. I mean, he was playing especially well, like you mentioned, coming off injury and playing his tail off, and that's a tough position to play and have to come in and play, as well as Sean Ryan certainly experienced, but he was about to get paid. So the fact that he got injured so late in the game when, his own teammate runs into him, that certainly hurts. And just I was reading reports where he was talking to reporters saying I think he avoided a major injury, but only time will tell to see how severe that injury is to his leg, because again, he was wearing an air cast, was on crutches as he walked to the locker room. So just a demoralizing end to the game for Josh Myers, for a guy that has been really playing well for the Packers.
There wasn't all bad in this game. Offensively speaking, Josh Jacobs, Tim, really did give it his all and put it all out there for this team. And he had one incredible run that comes up inches short of a touchdown.
If you can bank on anything with this Packers team this year, it's Josh Jacobs running hard, and that run that you talk about, Brandon, will be remembered. Unfortunately, it wasn't a touchdown, and it comes in a loss, but talk about determination, and it was just after the Dallas Goedert push-off with Carrington Valentine, so it was kind of like, you want to play physical? Okay, I'll come back and play physical, and that was one-man carry beast ball.
And then defensively, I mean, the defense was handed bad field position throughout this game, but they kept this team in it all the way till late in the fourth quarter, Lily. What can you say about the effort that group showed while the other parts of their game were falling off?
Hey, who would have thought pressure on a quarterback? It works. I mean, when Jeff Hafley was dialing up blitzes, the pressure was in Jalen Hurts' face. He was not throwing well, and obviously he's coming off, he's rusty, but they were getting in his face, and he was not throwing a lot of good passes outside of the first series for them. So the Packers defense really gave this offense a lot of chances. I think they forced multiple 3-and-outs, and the most telling sign was, again, the Packers defense at one point had 3 turnovers, and the Eagles had 7 points out of that. And that's a big testament to how well this Packers defense was playing. But alas, it wasn't enough because they couldn't generate a takeaway themselves, and the Eagles able to milk away this game.
Yeah, not complimentary football at all. Well, we will be talking more more about the Packers. And still ahead on the Fox 6 Sports Blitz, remembering a legend, the Milwaukee and baseball icon who we lost this past week. We'll be right back.
Another game Friday.
You play like an old man.
We got another game Saturday.
That's a little bit of a trick question.
We got another game Sunday.
Being bit to death by a duck.
We got another game Monday.
The guy's baking a pizza back there.
It don't stop, right?
That was not the duck, guys.
He's here.
That was like fingernails.
And Giannis giving A.J. Green all the grief he could along with his teammates because he did not dunk in a game that he may have claimed he did. So I think he's still searching for his first dunk in the NBA. Let's get back to the Packers talk, and let's look at the season as a whole. It felt like it was a season of fits and starts. They'd start playing well, and then they'd regress. They'd play well, they'd regress. And, Tim, the biggest thing to me is this on Matt LaFleur that they could not beat these teams that ended up ahead of them, and they found themselves always struggling in those games early?
I think that's an open question because I'm not yet sure if that's on Matt LaFleur or if this team, young or maybe not quite as good as they thought going into the season. They never beat a team that you would say is above the Packers in the standings. That's one thing if you only get one or two cracks at it. They had multiple cracks this season, never did it. So that's on the team as a whole, whether that's the players or LaFleur. I'm still not quite sure. I think that will be a test that we can see early next year. How much adjustment will the roster go through, and then what will this Packer team come out with next year? Yes, they were young. Yes, they should really learn a lot from this year. I think they developed a running game at the expense of a passing game, which was really their strength offensively.
And Lily, he gets them into the playoffs again, but he loses in the playoffs in the first round. He's now 3-5. Is that something that can affect his status in Green Bay?
I don't think so, at least not yet. I think for all the points that Tim mentioned in terms of having a young team, again, he's still very successful in the regular season. Obviously, that doesn't translate to Super Bowl wins, but I don't think Matt LaFleur right now is on the hot seat. But what does year 3 with Jordan Love as a starter look like? That might be a big question for, or a big pressure for Matt LaFleur to perform next year because, again, the Packers have invested a lot of money in Jordan Love. They're going to be the starting quarterback, and so you want Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love to succeed. So I think next year will be the big question for a lot of people to see if Matt LaFleur can be the long-term solution at head coach. But I don't think right now there's going to be a lot of heat under Matt LaFleur despite the Packers losing in the first round.
Well, they lose Christian Watson a few times this season. They lose him big time with the injury against the Bears. Is he going to be catching passes from Jordan Love next year, Tim?
I would think he would be. I don't think it's going to be at the start of the season because of the injury that he suffered, and it's going to be deep into the year, I would think, but I don't think he's going to be out of Green Bay, if that's a question you're suggesting here. I think Watson will be back with the Pack. I think they need him. I think you look at this receiver core, as time has gone on, there's a lot of sameness to this receiver core. You need somebody different, like a Christian Watson. A healthy Christian Watson would be the key there.
And Lily, the sameness with this receiving core this year, dropped passes. How big of a deal was that between them having a great season or just this good one?
I think a big difference, and that's the reason we never really saw this group play better as the year went on. I mean, these were issues we've been talking about all season long, and they never were really addressed, and that's why there might need to be a shakeup in that room because we can talk about these guys being reliable. We can talk about these guys being selfish and not needing to be a quote-unquote number one guy. It's a team sport for these guys, but at the end of the day, the production on the field says a lot, and the production led to a lot of drops, and that cannot happen moving forward if this group wants to emerge as one of the elite ones in the NFC. So drops still an issue. Of course, Jordan Love can point to not throwing some accurate passes, making it tougher for his receivers, especially at one point where he's throwing it pretty low for his guys to catch. But at the end of the day, their job is to catch a ball, and they haven't really done that consistently enough to be good in the NFL.
All right, finally, Tim, with this offseason, how big of a role in the locker room and for the other players will Josh Jacobs and Xavier McKinney play as they try to work towards 2025?
They won the Good Guy Award, the Stand-Up Award for dealing with the media. They're universally respected by their teammates. They came to Green Bay as free agents and delivered. They are your recruiting guys now at this point, as far as I'm concerned. They should be able to reach out and spread the word of Green Bay. Whether other people are going to want to come and play in Green Bay, that remains to be seen. But these two guys should have an impact in trying to bring talent to Green Bay. And for the first time in a while, the Packers do have salary cap money being freed up that they could utilize in that direction.
It's always weird when a season comes to an end, and as we talked about earlier, it is always so abrupt. The Packers' 2024 season has ended in Philadelphia in the first round of the playoffs. Well, sad news for Milwaukee and his community, along with the Major League Baseball community. Felix Mantilla passed away Friday. He played 11 years in the big leagues, mainly with the Milwaukee Braves. He was part of that 1957 World Series championship team. Now, his impact was notably felt in Milwaukee by kids because of the Felix Mantilla Little League that was created in 1972. Mantilla was 90 years old. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying up late with us tonight. She may be one of the best players in the state, soon to break multiple school records. But it's her humility and desire to help others that has her as this week's Fox 6 High School Hotshot.
Hi, I'm JJ Barnes, senior at the Prairie School, and I play basketball. When I walk in that gym, I know it's always about hard work. It's nothing going to come easy in that gym. There's a lot of banners up there. Hopefully this year we'll add to that banner. That's the banner I want to add to. That's the new banner I want to put up. I know I can be a scorer, but at the same time, I also want to get my teammates involved. If everybody plays their part, all those parts will connect together and we'll all be a successful team. I think when I was really little, probably about 3 years old, even probably before that, my parents probably put a ball in my hand. During 5th grade, I played baseball with the boys and also soccer, and now I do track. But I think basketball is really what stuck out to me. I like the competitiveness. Like basketball, you can shoot, score, rebound, defense, dive for the ball, all types of anything that really helps the team. Yeah, so I will be at Marquette University. They did recruit me in 8th grade, and then I just felt that place at home. And I think when I get there, I'll do whatever I can for the team, and obviously school. That's mainly why I went there, because they have my major in kinesiology, going to athletic training. Come here, my Gallagher here.
There's the girl.
He's up on the board over there, breaking records. My freshman year, I was really shy. I didn't like cameras or anything. I didn't really like talking as much. But now that I've grown older, I think that should have gotten me a part of life. Just going out of my comfort zone, talking to new people, saying hi, eating new restaurants. At school, we have like a peer mentoring club. We set up buddy activities for like little kids, and like we help them with like activities they might be having fun with. A lot of kids like me, say my name a lot, but I like to get to know them. Like little kids are so cute, and like they like to give you hugs. And then I have an affinity group meeting. It's where like all diverse kids get together, and like we play and stuff. I'm trying to leave a legacy here, not just on and off the court. JJ Barnes, senior co-captain at the Prairie School, and I play basketball. I'm this week's Fox 6 High School Hotshot.
Oh, and a sweet lefty shot. Now, JJ was inspired to pursue kinesiology through her coach's influence. She's excited for future opportunities that will allow her to also impact other athletes. We'll be right back. Well, it's just been a little over 4 hours since the Packers season ended. And Lily, I'm going to go out to you first. What is your takeaway from the 2024 season?
It was the fact that the Packers are still good at adding key free agents, but the fact that this team was young and they couldn't produce in a second year despite having a lot of continuity, that was disappointing, but interested to see what they do next season and what pieces they add. Yeah,
Tim, that's where I'm going with you. What do they do with the draft and possible free agents?
I think they have to identify some pass rush. Again, you saw today how important it is. You have money to spend. I think I go for veteran players there. It's not all these transitional defensive linemen from college that you're trying to make into edge rushers. So I think you have to identify people. You have to go spend some money. This team needs to have some veteran emphasis added. And Robert Saleh was here in the press box today eating chicken tenders at halftime, Brandon. So, you know, when you're a consultant, it's different than when you're an assistant coach or a head coach.
And we'll see where he lands in this offseason. For Tim Van Born and Lily Zhao, I'm Brandon Cruz. A last look at the home bridge and the green and gold. We'll see you next Sunday night.